What's up everybody, Weldabeast here, and I am just gonna show you how to basic loop. Just the most basic mechanics on how to loop just to improve your gameplay by like 100%. Now, just one thing you could do just to get right off the bat here is just to play girl characters because they are shorter than the male characters. Like, let me just give you a representation. Like, look at how short she is right now, and he's like a good half a head. So it definitely makes a difference when you're in game. So when you want to improve your gameplay, you don't have to do that, but if you'd like to hide a little bit better from the killer, then you most certainly can do that. Alright, now, that is just the first thing I want to tell you about. Now, if you want to last a little bit longer in chase, like let's say you don't know how, like what kind of perks you should bring. You should bring, for starting off, you should bring something like Sprint Burst, which is a Meg Thomas perk. Let me show you what it looks like. Let me just find it really fast. Oh, just passed it. Alright, this is what it looks like. It makes it so you sprint 150% faster your normal running speed for a total of 3 seconds. And it gives you the exhausted status effect for a total of 40 seconds. Now, this is just a basic perk because you have Meg Thomas as soon as you get the game for free. Now, I'm not going to run Sprint Burst. Actually, no, I will. I'll run it so I can show you what it does. This is my assistant here, and her name is Hua Gwen. She will be playing killer throughout this match so I can teach you how to improve your skills at Survivor. Alright, yeah, I will be demonstrating this on Cold Tower because it is the most even map on... See, it is the most even map in this whole game. So this is the clown killer. You probably know this by now. Now, I already used my sprint burst, which is stupid. If you're gonna use sprint burst, make sure you walk at the start of the game, just to make sure you don't use it. And the symbol on the right hand side is the exhausted status effect. That just prevents you from using perks like sprint burst, and it also negates Iron Will, which is my top perk that I'm using right now. So what we're looking at here is this is just a basic loop. Now, you're gonna see these on every map basically, and this is what we would call a safe loop. These safe loops make it so you have a pretty decent chance at mind gaming the killer and preventing them from double backing and hitting you. So it's like they're usually around the same size. They can come in different shapes. Like, let me see. Like this is also a basic. Like this whole thing, all 4 of these objects are basic loops. Now, that sprint burst going off right now. I'm really bad at using sprint burst, so I don't really use it. So it might go off several times during this match. This is another basic loop, and it's more circular shaped. This is better, and just because the pallets on this one does not mean you have to loop that. You can loop this one, and you can go to the pallet. And what a loop is just, it's an object you run around just to waste the killer's time, essentially. So this is what we call a basic loop. How you loop these is, just go ahead and chase me. is you just go around in circles. And now when we get to here, I can make a decision, alright? I can either fake the pallet or I can drop it. Now if the red stain is on my back, the red stain is the light coming from them. If it's on my back, I'm gonna most definitely drop this pallet. Okay, and I might even get hit through it depending on what the connection is looking like. But let's just say that I dropped this pallet and they're still on that one. I could use Sprint Burst to get away, but I was exhausted, so I wouldn't be able to do that. But if you had Sprint Burst 99, which means you walk until it gets almost done with its cooldown and you just start sprinting, then you can just sprint again after you drop a pallet and it will let you get a huge distance away. Now you can break that pallet. Let's demonstrate on Shack. So this is Shack. This is on most maps, if not every map. Alright, you're gonna see this everywhere. Now sometimes there will be a basement in here. It will be located in the corner, or right where I'm running right now currently. This is what we call the strongest map, or strongest loop on the map. Alright, depending on the killer, but against Clown, this would be a good loop for 1 or 2 loops around, just because he can stop it with just a purple bottle. But back to the basement thing. If there is a basement here, you want to only loop this when you're healthy or only one time, because if you get knocked down near basement, you could get basement treatment, and that is really bad. You do not want to be put in basement, because that just, depending on what level you are, sometimes your teammates will be scared to come down and save you. So not all the time, most of the time they'll come and save you, but it's just a bad scenario for everybody. Alright, so I have Sprint Burst, so I'm just gonna get rid of it really fast. Just a Sprint Burst, just a speed boost, like I said, just to give you some distance, like that. Alright, so how you want to loop this, which there are right and wrong ways. You can make it so it's safe either way you do loop it. It's just one way is a little bit more harder. So how you want to loop this is, you see this window, you're gonna want to go towards either the well, this is the wrong way, sorry, I apologize. This is, you're gonna want to go inside towards the pallet, and then you want to make it a rectangle, like a rectangle loop. Like you go out to this circle right here in the ground, and then you sharp right turn, just so you can get a fast vault, because if you don't do that, you'll get a slow vault. Like, this is what I mean. So you're gonna have to cut it off and do sharp. The most important way you want to loop this is actually going through the outside, through the doors with the lockers, the door with the lockers, and you're gonna want to go straight towards the window. Now go ahead and chase me. Like, this is how you're gonna want to loop it. And make sure you watch behind you and also look ahead of you at the same time. See, they double back there, so you're gonna have to change directions. Now I could fake the pallet here, which is what you want to do, but she didn't stop, so she would have hit me there. But you could fake it there, because this is the second pallet that I've dropped, and if it's your second pallet, this is the most valuable pallet. You don't want to waste it. It's what we call a god pallet. It means if I was to drop this and she was to try and mind game, like let's say she tried to walk around the loop, go ahead and do that. The other side. Like, try and go through the window. You could just fast vault over and over, and she will never catch me, ever. That makes it a god pallet. All you have to do is camp it. Now you don't want to camp pallets, but if a killer isn't breaking this pallet, definitely take advantage of it. Now before you drop god pallet, you want to loop this window 3 times at least. so it gets blocked off, and I will demonstrate what that looks like. That's how a window is blocked off. That means you cannot vault it again, and if you try, you will ultimately be blocked from doing so. The killer can still vault it though. Just go ahead and demonstrate. Alright, now this is how you want to loop it. You want to go from this door through the window to the outside. Now, when you do so, you want to fake a direction. You want to be looking back in towards the window, and you want to fake this way, and if the killer starts going that way, you're gonna start running this way. Now, if the killer does that but they watch you, make sure you keep watching them as you run this way, because they could double back and they could start going that direction. So you want to basically keep going back and forth until they either choose to vault the window or they choose just to go one way. Now that pallet's dropped already, but usually they would break it by now. You can break it if you want. I don't. Yeah, now if the pallet's gone, it's a strong window, yes, of course, but you don't want to loop it forever because it doesn't have a pallet. You don't want to loop things like this when there isn't a pallet. This is a basic loop, but there's no pallet here, so a killer will hit you eventually. Now let's take you to, this is what we call a jungle gym. This is on some maps, not all of them, but this is a pretty strong jungle gym. Now this is very skill dependent, but it is very strong if you use it correctly. Now what you want to be looping here is you want to be looping around these boxes right here. Now when looping, you want to go through the pallet and you want to go towards the window and you want to get a fast vault on it. Now the killer can do one of two things. They can go around either outside of it or they can go through the window. Now depending on what they do, like she went around the outside, I would run the opposite way and I would go towards the pallet here. Right? Now let's just go ahead and start chasing me. I could fake that, make her swing at it. Let's just demonstrate it. See, it gives you an extra loop. It gives you more time. And then we vault it. Okay, go around this way. Now, you always want to go towards the pallet. Now, if they follow that way, you just go towards the window again. Okay, now you can also do that if they're really close to you. You can go right through the window. That is a valid option. It's just a little bit more unsafe because that generates what we call a 50-50. A 50-50 is basically a 50-50 chance where you either get hit or the killer misses. Now, how a 50-50 would work is if she was too close to me and I couldn't make it to that pallet, she would be behind me. And I would have to go through this, and she can either double back, which she's actually a little bit further. She can what she can do is she can show you her red stain around the out like that, and then she doubles back and I vault through. Boom, she hits me. So that's what we call a failed 50-50. So I'm just going back to how you always want to be looking behind you during chase, but you also want to make sure you don't run into anything. It happens, it will happen. It's okay. It's always going to happen to you no matter what you do. But you can negate it as much as possible. Now this is a strong loop. You want to be looping the pallet. Like I said, you want to loop the window 3 times and block it off before you use the pallet. But sometimes it's just not going to happen. Sometimes you're just going to have to use the pallet immediately. Which, if the killer's that far from you, probably don't do that. Don't drop the pallet. If they go towards the inside instead of the outside, you're gonna run through the pallet and you're gonna drop it right here. You can break it now. Okay, just go go behind you. Okay, that is the hatch. Now this is only available to the last survivor when there's only one survivor remaining in the match. All survivors have to either be escaped or they have to be dead in order for me to take this. Now the killer can shut this. Don't shut it. But they can shut this if they would like. And they are going to want to. So you want to find this before the killer does, or else you're going to have to go back and forth between doors. Now this is a regular loop. This is a regular jungle gym. And a jungle gym consists of a pallet and a window. That is a basic jungle gym. Alright, now how you want to be looping this? Just come in the middle. Okay, stop right there. Okay, go ahead and chase me. You're going to want to be chasing them this way. You're going to want to be going through the door, and you're going to want to do one of two things. You're going to either go, you're going to fake the direction, depending on what direction the killer goes, you're going to go that direction, or the opposite direction. You want to keep doing this until either the window blocks or you get hit. Now, she went that way, which this will generate another 50-50. Let's do that one more time. So yeah, stay there. Alright, now come to where you show the red stain. Oh, no. A little bit back. Okay. That's a little bit too far. Back up a little bit. Yeah. So now they can stop right there, which is showing you their red stain. And so you might actually think to vault this window, which I can't because it's blocked, but they could double back and boom, you're hit. But if they keep going, then you could just jump through it and get a safe vault. Now that's why you want to be watching behind you, just so you don't get unnecessary hits when you don't have to. And if they do double back right there, all you do is you run towards the inside into this pallet, and you just keep running around until eventually you have to use the pallet or the window blocks off. Now, when you get hit, let's say you get hit right here. Hit me. You don't want to drop this pallet. You want to use your speed boost to get away. Because every time you get hit, you're going to be getting a speed boost. As long as you're healthy. Okay. Now this is it's relatively safe, this loop. It's just a little short. Because they can easily mind game this, go backwards like you just seen. I almost got hit there. This is one of those pallets you want to use in a crutch, like as soon as you get to it and you're about to go down. So let's see if I can find oh, perfect. T and L. So this is the L. This is the T. Alright. Now this is a very skill-based loop, if I do say so myself. How you want to be looping this is get behind me, get over there. Yeah. Alright. Go ahead and chase me. You want to be looping it like this. Oh, well, don't go around the outside. Yeah, I'll teach him that way yet soon. So you want the killer to be going around the outside of the loop. And you want to keep going through the windows until they block off, which is the most certain thing you want. And you basically won't get hit as long as you keep doing this and they keep going around the outside. But let's say a killer goes around the middle. Now this generates what we call another 50-50, because they can show you their red stain, or they can go back here. Show the red stain. Now they can do what they're doing there, and they can double back, or they can keep going and swing, which that is the 50-50. So you want them to be going through the outside as much as possible, so make sure you fake that direction every time. Now, that's just the basic thing about the TNL. You want them to be going through the outside and not the middle, otherwise it will generate a 50-50. There are things to make sure that you don't ever lose a 50-50. It's very skill based. You have to watch that red stain. You gotta try not to run into stuff. Alright, let's proceed. Let's try and find a pallet gym for them. Oh, it's a jungle gym. Okay, this is another jungle gym. It doesn't always look like this. The window is on this side. Sometimes the window will spawn here, and in that case, the pallet will spawn here. Let's just go ahead and show them basic looping. So go ahead and just chase me normally. Now they double back there, so I'm going to go around the outside. I'm going to actually go towards the pallet, which is another thing you could do. And, sprint burst coming in clutch right there. You just basically want to keep your distance. Go the opposite way the killer does and always go towards a resource. See, she's close enough so I drop it. And she would therefore break it. Now what you would do here is you'd go towards the window and you'd run towards the next option of a loop. This is another jungle gym here. And this is the good version of this jungle gym because the window is on the inside wall. So how you want to loop this is you're going to want to loop it like this. You're going to follow my character, go through, jump through the window. You can either fake this way or the other direction, it doesn't matter. And you're going to go through that hallway. Now she didn't follow, so I'm going to go the opposite way and towards the window. I faked that direction. I gave her a little too much distance, and then I would drop the pallet there, but just because we're in a demonstration, I'm not going to drop the pallet. Alright, now that is the basic looping mechanics. Now, if the killer gets some distance on you, you're going to want to drop the pallet. Don't ever give them a free hit. Ever. That is just not what you should do unless you're saving an injured teammate while you are healthy. Now, let me try and find an unsafe loop really fast. Pretty sure there's one over here. Now, the maps are relatively the same, but they aren't always going to spawn the same. Sometimes there will be different things. Now this is what we would call a safe loop because it's around the same distance as the other one. Yeah, this would probably be the closest loop to an unsafe loop. Unsafe loops are very short and just really easy to mind game. You never want to camp those pallets. The only times you want to use an unsafe loop pallet is when they're right on your ass and you get a stun. That's the only time you want to use one of those pallets. Now, if the killer still has some distance on you, it is not a good decision to loop an unsafe pallet because it's basically a guaranteed hit. This is another safe loop just because it's around the same distance as the other ones. Now I could fake this, make it so they respect. Respecting is where they stop so they don't get stunned. Okay, now, let's say the killer just doesn't want to respect. They just keep going through. They would basically hit me right now. But, so that's when you would want to drop the pallet immediately. And if they keep not respecting, which means keep going through the pallet without stopping, then you just want to keep dropping your pallets as soon as possible and not letting them get anything on you. Now this next thing I'm going to be teaching you is a little bit advanced, but you should always try and do something. Like if you know you're about to get hit and there is nothing you can do, like let's say that pallet right there is nowhere to be found. Like let's say I got caught lacking and I'm out here. I don't have a pallet, I don't have a window, I don't have nothing. What you want to do, just chase me, Norman. You're going to want to 360. Now, you want to start faking your direction when they start getting close to you, and then you want to go around them like that. And usually they will swing and they will miss if you do it correctly. You can fake directions easily just by holding S, pressing A and D. And then as soon as that red stain gets almost to you, like right on you, like as soon as you can feel it touching your back legs, that's when you want to spin. So go ahead and chase me. Now that was a bad representation, but that would be better. Those are some bad examples. Let's go ahead and try that one more time. See, that's what it would look like. Now, usually the killer would swing when they get that close, and that will give them a short stun. Definitely not enough to get you super far, but it can get you far enough to where you can get to a pallet or a loop if you are close enough to one. Alright, well that's basically gonna cover most of it. The only thing that I wasn't able to cover was a pallet gem. Pallet gems, just picture this but without this outside wall. No window. It's just the pallet. They look almost identical to this, except this side is a little bit shorter than the long side. Now, obviously, you just want to loop the longer side more than the short side. So let's just pretend this is a pallet gem. Go ahead and chase me. She's a little close, so I would drop this, but I'm not going to because it's a demonstration. But she respected, so we're going to keep going through. I'm going to fake. She kept going through, so therefore I would 360. But I could get hit there. That's just an honest thing. Alright, so that's going to cover the basic Survivor looping guide. I hope you guys have a great day, and I will catch you later.